Hello and welcome to ELI University. My name is Danny, and today we're going to be talking about grading objects. Grading objects can be used to quickly create grading inside or outside of a pad. Let's say you needed to design a flat pad to put a house on, or a flat pad for a regulator station. What this will allow you to do is to quickly drop a pad of any size, or either you can make it a rectangle, you can make it a trapezoid, it doesn't matter. What this will allow you to do is quickly grade down to the existing outside the pad and then create a flat pad inside that rectangle or polyline object. So for this training, we're just going to use a super basic square. We already have our access road coming off of the main road that we designed in previous videos. The length and width of this pad is 100 feet by 100 feet. There's two different ways to do this. We can either convert our polyline to a break line, or we can just draw our break line based on what we think is going to be correct. Converting a polyline to a break line is quick. Drawing a break line is a little bit slower because you have to input information into each vertex of the break line. So for the first part, let's just select this polyline. We're going to go to the Home tab. We're going to go to Create Design Panel and Feature Line. Now, when I reference break lines are the old feature lines. It's the same idea. It's a 3D polyline that has information attached to it. We're going to select Feature Line and create feature line from objects. Since we have our polyline selected, it's going to drop us straight into the Create Feature Lines dialog box. Site really doesn't matter. You can use sites to separate objects and items and certain portions of your design. I don't typically use sites. Some people do. It's more of a personal preference type of thing. So for style, we can select style and click the drop down arrow, and it shows you all the different things that you can create feature lines for. Now, a lot of these items come from different types of objects. You'll notice corridor crown, corridor curb line. Those can all be extracted from a corridor once you have it in your drawing. Since we're not doing any of that, we can just use the basic feature line that it defaults to. So if you were to uncheck style, I believe it defaults to basic feature line. That's fine. Layer, we do want to change the layer by clicking the 3 sheets of paper to the right and then clicking the 3 sheets of paper again. We want to change this to C topo feet for C topo feature. Click OK. Click OK here. It's going to give us a couple questions down at the bottom for conversion options. This only happens when you're converting a polyline into a feature line or break line. It's going to ask us, do you want to erase the existing entities? We do. Otherwise, we're going to have a polyline sitting directly underneath of our break line. So keep that box checked. Assign elevations. You can either check this or keep this unchecked. It doesn't really matter either way because your polyline is typically drawn at 0 with 0 on all the vertices. And since we're converting it to a feature line, we're going to manipulate each of those vertices independently. So you can assign elevations, but you don't have to because you're going to go back in and do it manually anyway. And assigning elevations is only going to tell it take whatever the elevation of the polyline is. So if you snapped your polyline to one of these contours, it's going to put that polyline at the elevation of this contour. And again, not super important. So I'm going to uncheck that. Weed points we don't need to do because there's only 4 points on the rectangle. And we're going to click OK. And it's going to turn green because that's our feature line layer. Okay, after we have our polyline converted to a feature line, select the feature line. And up here in the middle of the ribbon is Elevation Editor. We're going to click that, and it's going to open the panorama, which you're going to start seeing more and more as you start getting deeper into some of these commands. I'm going to move it so we can see it. And what we're looking at here is each of the 4 vertices. One is the start and one is the end, and then the 3 in the middle. So if I were to select 0 plus 0, 0, this is where I began drawing the polyline. If I go to 1 plus 0, 0, it gives you a delta that shows you which vertex is selected. 3 plus 0, 0, and 4 plus 0, 0. Like I said, 0 plus 0, 0, and 4 plus 0, 0 are the same vertex because this is a closed object. But for the purpose of setting slopes along these line segments, it needs to have that extra vertex at the end as well. So the first thing we want to do is we don't want this to be flat. So right now, all of our elevation actuals are at 575.04. Let's do this first. Let's add another vertex at the end of our edge of pavement for our access road so we have a little bit of control in this line segment here. To do that, we're going to go to the middle of the panorama and there's insert elevation point. It's going to ask us to specify a point. We can just snap right to the end of that edge of pavement line. It's going to tell us the station, the elevation. We're going to click OK. And now we have an elevation point there. What we can do now is we can maintain elevation 575.04 across this 15-foot access road entrance. And then after that, start manipulating. So let's go from this elevation point down to this vertex here and change this slope to have it going down at 1%. So what we want to do is we want to select our 0 plus 15, which is the other side of our access road, down to 1 plus 0, 0. So in between these two stations is where we want to start tipping this pad down. So we're going to click on plus 15, grade ahead, going to change that to -1. And you'll notice now for our 1 plus 0, 0 elevation, it's at 574.19. So 1% down from here to here takes us down to 574.19, or just shy of a foot. Let's go down again at 1%. So between 1 plus 0, 0 and 2 plus 0, 0, we want the grade ahead to be -1. So now this, our 2 plus 0, 0 is at 573.19. Now let's start heading back up. So between 2 and 3, we're going to go back up at 1%. And then what's nice about this is it's going to actually be calculating the grade ahead every time we change one of these vertex elevations. So right now, if we're going from here to here down at 1%, and here to here down at 1%, going from here to here up 1% leaves a remainder of 0.85% to get back to this elevation here. We can leave that, you can change it, it doesn't really matter. What we don't want to do is change the elevation of this vertex because it's snapped to the end of our access road. So if we were to drop this vertex, it would actually create a drop off of the end of the access road into the pad. So that's pretty much it for quickly editing a feature line using the panorama. The panorama is a very powerful tool. We're going to click the green checkbox here. Now let's say we want to add grading on the outside of this pad. We can either hit escape to deselect our feature line, or with the feature line selected, it automatically drops you into the feature line editing tools. We can go to the home tab and we can go to the create design panel and the grading and click grading creation tools. Grading creation tools opens up its own menu. And what's nice about these types of menus is that you can pretty much go from left to right. And a lot of the things on the far right hand side of all of these menus you don't necessarily need to use. So let's start on the left hand side. Set the grading group. We're going to have to name a grading group, name it access pad. We do want to click automatic surface creation. We can use the group name, which is nice. Surface style, let's change it to contours 1 and 5 design. Tessellation spacing and tessellation angle, we can leave at the defaults. We don't need to do a volume based surface right now. That's going to be in a later video. We can just click OK, and it's going to bring up the create surface dialog, where everything we just set in the previous dialog box is just giving us the information on what we set. If we needed to change anything, we could do it in here, or we could go over here into the tool space and change it there. So when you get to this dialog, you can just click OK. The next button over, set the target surface. We're going to click that, click the drop down arrow. We want to use the EX topo as our target. We're going to click OK. The third button over is set the grading layer. You can change that now. You can change it later. I'm not going to change it right now. It's just the layer that grading object will be on. Next button over is select a basic criteria set. Right now, it's just set the basic set. All we have are basic and standard. Leave it on basic. You don't even need to change that. Now, this menu here is important. This allows you to set how you want to grade away from your pad. You can grade it out at a specified distance. You can grade it to an elevation. You can grade it to a relative elevation. Let's say you wanted to grade it out a foot above or below the existing surface, or you can just grade right to the surface. Let's select grade to surface. Skip this here. This is the style editing button. We don't need to mess with that because that's what these are. These are our grading creation styles. The button further to the right is create grading. If we click the drop down arrow, it'll allow us to create grading, copy grading, create a transition, or create infill. Right now, we just want to create grading. Next button over is the edit grading button. Since we don't have any grading, there's nothing to edit yet. The button after that is the grading volume tools, and these are for editing grading. Now, when I selected create grading down in the command line it's asking me to select the feature. It's not obvious. You got to be careful with these blue buttons. The blue buttons will start triggering command line options. So it's asking us to select the feature. I'm going to select our feature line. It's going to ask us to select the grading side. For this, we want to daylight out to the existing surface, so we want to be grading away from our pad. I'm just going to single left click out here. It's going to ask us, do we want to apply it to the entire length? In this case, no. If you were to click yes, it's just going to whip grading around the outside of that feature line with no regard to the fact that there's an access road running into the grading. In our case here, we do want to click no, and it's going to ask us where we want to start our grading. So we're going to zoom in and start our grading at the edge of pavement here. It's going to tell us the station plus 15, which we already knew because we had put an elevation point there. We're going to hit enter, and then it's going to ask us for the next point or the other side of the grading object. You'll notice that it's showing you which direction it's going to be grading. So our first point is grading clockwise around our feature line. Now it's going to ask us where we want to stop the grading. So for our endpoint, we want the station to be 0 plus 0, 0. So we're just skipping the 15-foot access road. We're going to hit enter. It's going to ask us the cut format. Do we want it to be a slope or a grade? Right now, leave it at slope. Hit enter. Our cut slope is going to default to 2 to 1. Let's set it to 3 to 1. Then it's going to ask you the fill format. We can keep it as slope again. Fill slope 3 to 1. And because we had automatic surface creation turned on, if we go over in our tool space and expand surfaces, we have access pad here, which is the surface we just created. We're going to hit escape to cancel the command. We can close our grading tools by hitting escape again. So that's our grading outside of our feature line, and it's skipping our access road. So access road has its own grading because it's a corridor, and then our grading around our pad is automatic. Let's put an infill because right now this is just a hole. There's nothing inside of here until we tell it to infill it. So let's select our feature line again. Let's go back to the home tab. Let's go back to grading, create grading infill. It's going to ask us to select an area to infill. We're going to click on the inside of our pad and press enter. And there's our infill. Now this is a 3D object. We have our 3D corridor surface built, and we have an automatically graded pad. What's nice about this, just like the corridors and just like the profiles and the alignments, if we were to change an elevation on this feature line, this pad would automatically update. It would update the infill and it would update the daylighting around it. So let's say we know we dropped this 1% between this vertex and this vertex. Let's go back to our elevation editor and let's raise it 1%. So that was between 1 plus 0, 0 and 2 plus 0, 0. Let's say grade ahead is 1%. Our grading changes automatically. We have this access pad set to rebuild automatic out of the gate because when we tell it to create grading, it knows we're going to want to make on-the-fly changes. So rebuild automatic is automatically turned on. Let's say we needed to dip down over here for whatever reason. We needed to create a hole. Let's go back to our 1 plus 0, 0, and let's make that negative 1.5. Another thing about the grading object, red indicates cut, green indicates fill. If we were to select this object and select our existing tin surface, up in the ribbon after you select one or more of those types of objects, we can click Object Viewer. Object Viewer comes in very small. We can expand it though so we can see what we're doing. Let's zoom in on our pad. Let's change to a southwest isometric. You can actually see that what we did is cutting. Now, unfortunately, this existing surface is not removed inside of this grading object yet. That's going to be in another video. You can actually see that this is all cut because our feature line is this inside edge, and in order to daylight to the existing surface out here, it's actually rising, which means that it's having to cut all of this out. If this pad were raised up 5 feet, this would look completely different. So that's it for grading objects. They are very quick and they are very powerful. If you know how to use them, if you understand what you need to click, what you need to tell it, incredibly fast, incredibly powerful. So that's it for grading objects. Thank you very much.